Hey Aaron,
Hello, Jess. How are you?
I'm good. What's your word of the episode? What are you feeling?
I am going with attuned today because I
What?
feel like it conveys this sort of like deep listening to not just your body rhythms, but also the stories that we have our guests share. So I'm going with attuned.
I like that. I'm feeling honest. I think that is my word for the day is like a little bit of honesty.
I like it.
And that's mainly because of the amazing guest we have on today,
Hmm.
Heather. Hi,
Yay.
Heather. Heather, really quickly tell us what word are you feeling attuned to today?
Pumped. My Seahawks are in the Super Bowl this weekend.
That is a good one.
As we're filming this, we don't
Should
know
we
what's going
even
to
ask
happen,
you?
but
Yeah, who are you? We shouldn't even ask you who you're rooting for, right? Like it should be just
pumped.
Good.
that is amazing. Well, everybody, please meet Heather Yancey. I met Heather a couple of months ago in person, and I was so struck by her authenticity and honesty and how she is unapologetic about herself. And I think this is the perfect avenue to have these kind of open conversations about how, as a woman in this industry, you continue to train through whatever is happening to you physically, emotionally, and mentally. Heather, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I love the topic. I can't wait to dive into this with you guys because I'm in my 50s and there's a lot of us that are in our 50s and older that are still in this industry and kicking. But we have a lot to teach the younger people coming through, and we want to make it a little more common speak. My background, I've been in the industry for the last 2 decades. It started when I was homeschooling my kids. I was like this crunchy granola mom who just moved from Vegas to Seattle, and I didn't know what to do with my kids. So I was like, you're all staying home and I'm going to teach you. And I went to a homeschooling co-op, and there was this woman there who told me that she taught group exercise cycling classes. And I was like, that's fun. I want to do that. How do I do that? So a week later, I was signed up for class, and I've never looked back. And that led, group classes led into personal training, which led into management of facilities, and then, my own coaching business. So it's been a big trajectory, how it goes, right, for most of us. And really right now my focus is on helping midlife women to navigate what's going on, because I think it's not represented well enough. We're getting there, but I think we have a lot to learn.
Yeah. So, Heather, that's really interesting because it sounds like this was sort of a maybe stumbling upon entry into what has turned out to be a really fruitful, influential career. Or is this maybe something that you would kind of had in the back of your mind, like I could do this? Or was it kind of
No, I didn't know anything about this. Like, I always liked working out and running. I ran a lot of races, but I never really thought about it. No, no, I was in sales the first part of my career, and then I went back and got a degree for teaching, and I taught first grade, and yeah, and then kept going. But no, I didn't know that this could be a career.
I mean, I feel like first grade is the same as cycling. I feel like that has so much crossover. It's wild how much that makes a lot of sense. And I taught cycling, so I'm insulting myself just as much as anyone else. Heather, when you say you
Very
work
sweet
with,
age.
right? Tell us more about working with midlife women. When you say that that is the primary focus right now of your career, what do you mean? What does that entail?
It's a lot of mindset work, and we're doing a lot of like finding purpose, finding joy, finding that through lifestyle. So yes, we're doing a lot of movement. We're talking about nutrition, but it's all the other things too that are so really important, that, your sleep and getting yourself into a position where you're able to feel like you can take on the day. Because I don't know if you know this, but midlife women don't sleep very well. But there's so many things that we look at, as far as like a recovery standpoint. It's just very, very different than it was when we were in our 30s, even into, 40s. It changes significantly for most women. So I want people to understand that they're not alone, that they're supported, and that they have so many tools that they can pull on. And it's lifestyle. I mean, this is what we do. This is what we teach. So we need to bring this to the table.
Yeah, I love what you said about not feeling alone. And I think that that is one of the critical messages that Jess and I wanted to make sure was always kind of this underpinning of this podcast and all the conversations we have with all of our guests. Because, like, there's a real power in community, and there's a real power in female community, and bringing it together and letting people know, like, yeah, I get it. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. And I'm here for you. So I love that you also offered that as part of kind of your mission.
Thank you. I mean, how terrible it feels when you're going through changes. And you, like for me, when I was in my early 40s and I was up in front of classes and with clients and I couldn't remember stuff and I was exhausted and I thought like all my joy kind of left. I felt meh. And I didn't understand, like, is this anxiety? Is this depression? What's happening to me? Where did Happy Heather go? And that
Yeah.
wasn't a conversation that was taking place, 10 years ago for me. So it did feel lonely and it felt scary.
Yeah. I think that's another word, is like the fear of it. And some of that I think comes from the external noise that we hear about how like midlife is the decline, and it's not this,
Yeah.
not seen
Yeah.
as this pivot point, as this option for growth.
Mhm.
It's like it's a death sentence, and your life is over and you're dried up and you're useless and biologically irrelevant. So there's that fear. And then there's the fear that we just naturally feel as humans when we confront a change.
And so
Absolutely.
how did you confront that change when you were just talking about your experience in the past decade of teaching classes and training clients while you were going through your midlife change, or while things started to feel different and you were having kind of an out of body experience? How did you get through it? What kind of tips and tricks and tools did you learn in order to be able to continue your career while still not feeling your best?
Good question. I have an amazing doctor who helped me through this. I work with a naturopath who really taught me about, and she's younger than me, so kudos for her knowing this, but she taught me about what was happening with my hormones, and that just opened up like the door for me to learn a lot. So I went and took every course on the planet and, became a certified menopause specialist because, when you're going through something, you want to understand it and then you want to fix it. And sometimes not in that order. Sometimes you want to fix it and then understand it. But it was important to me to do everything that I could. But it started with my doctor. It started with getting, the support. Like I felt like she had my back and I had her in my corner to direct me. I did end up starting HRT in my late 40s. That was helpful. It also, another thing that's really helpful for me, and I think I shared this with you once before, Jess, that I'm very transparent when I'm with clients or I'm in front of a class. I use humor and I'm transparent. Like I'm telling them what's happening to me and I laugh about it and I make it real, because I think that there's like a human perspective in that we can relate to each other. Like, oh, she's totally like me. And how did she know I'm dealing with this? Like, I want others to know that person that's up in front of them that's leading the show sometimes is really dealing with a lot, and it's okay.
I love that messaging so much, because for so long, I feel like the industry has taught us to kind of be gurus on the mountain, right? Like we're this person up on the mountain, or look, we're speaking down, like follow me, do this, and you're changing it from this like influencer perspective, if you will, and taking that component out of it and being like, no, this is real life. And I think there's something that your clients obviously can see and be like, now I can actually be open and honest with you about this because you are being open and honest about it with me.
For sure. For sure. And we can still be the expert. We still have that information and that experience to bring to the table, but we can just, invite more into the table.
And you're also giving permission for people to recognize and also vocalize their struggle. And like, I'm so beyond pretending that like everybody's okay. Like we're all fine. No, we're not. No, we're so far off center. It's not even quantifiable. But I appreciate that like there's this permissive sort of quality to how you interact with your clients and like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And it does amp up the relatability. It makes you human. And sometimes I think the industry hasn't always positioned us as humans. They've positioned us as we do everything right and we got it all together and and none of that's true. That's a highlight reel. None of that's true.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit, Heather, about your reset methodology when working with your clients.
Everything that I do is, first of all, it's the badass reset, because I want people to feel like a badass. And you can feel like a badass even if you're having, crappy sleep and, forgetting, to do something on the other side of your body. The reset to me came about kind of during COVID of like, I felt like we all just needed to hit the reset. So to me, it's like, you have the permission to hit reset daily. You know, we don't need to wait for Monday or next month or next year. In whatever capacity, you can start over, you can start anew, you can start fresh and you can start it with your mindset, right? Like the way that you're approaching things. I just think it's fresh. I love giving people the permission to hit reset, and it can be in whatever capacity they need it. I just happen to bring it to them, you know, in health and fitness. Yeah.
Love that methodology of everyone being a badass.
Yes. It's a good reminder because we are. We really are. And it doesn't really matter kind of the behind the scenes struggle. Like you're still putting one foot in front of the other and you're still confronting the challenges that you're facing, health, emotional, whatever that happens to be. And so you haven't lost the badassery, dare I say.
It never goes away.
It never goes away. It's an underpinning. It's foundational, but sometimes we eclipse that in favor of being more on that mindset of like, I am struggling, therefore I am a mess. No, you're facing a struggle, but you're still badass.
For sure. And the badass came so many years ago. I was on a triathlon team of really epic women for about 12 years. And their whole tagline was badass is beautiful. And that just was always like part of how I felt. So I had to carry on badass with what I do.
Yeah. That's amazing. What was the turning point for you where you like had that moment of not feeling like a badass and then deciding, no, I'm going to own this word so much that it's going to be my branding, my podcast, my program. Like when was that kind of caveat for you where you were like, I'm leaving this behind and I'm really leaning more into the field of badassery?
It was June 11th. There was a pivotal point though. It was a conversation with my husband on the deck. And it was a sunny day. And in the Pacific Northwest, when you get sunny days that are nice, you like, soak them up. And we were sitting outside and somebody texted me and they said, hey, we're going to go do this bike ride. And it was a beautiful bike ride up in the mountains. And I was like, I don't know if I want to. And then I looked at my husband and I was like, what? Like, I would have never said that before. I would have hopped right up to, like got my shoes, got my stuff. And I really was taken back in that moment. And it made me like flip the script right there, because I'll allow myself to wallow for, 5 minutes, but then I've got to shift it. And it came like to me, like, no, this is not going to be how it goes. You're going to figure out like what's going on with you. We're going to restore you. We're going to get you back. But at the same time, you're going to go get the shoes and you're going to do the thing that is going to make you feel good. And you're going to connect with your friends and you're going to get exercise and you're going to be outside. So it was, I don't know if it was June 11th, but it was a sunny day on the porch. And it was a real like slap the face moment.
Love that you bring this up so much, because a lot of our other guests in our conversations, we've really focused a lot on the physical symptoms of physical setbacks and you're really honing in on this like emotional and mental changes that we all feel at some point in our life, whether this is perimenopause, whether this is just an injury that you've suffered or something that's happening in your personal life that you're bringing that part into work. We don't really talk about the mental struggle. Like you said, happy Heather a little while ago, like where did happy Heather go? And I think that's so important for us as fitness and professionals to really understand is like your personality will ebb and flow and your energy levels that you can put behind your personality will kind of ebb and flow. How did you come back and find your voice again, your happy Heather, through all of these kind of mental and emotional changes?
That's such a good question. And it's like, we need to know that you can't always be on a peak, right? Like we're going to have a lot of valleys. It's not always, happy Heather, but when that's the majority of how you feel, if you're feeling pretty positive and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out of that. And I'm going to answer that question, but just to like go back to that time, I also have an autoimmune disease. So it's hard to know, is this hormonally related? Is this me and, my disease? Am I just fried? You really have to do some detective work. And I think that the more that we have these conversations, people will be like, okay, let me try to figure this out too, because they're understanding that these are the points we need to connect. But, as far as like feeling, I am about the feeling, and I really do want to make sure that I'm doing everything every day that I can to be that person that I know that I am. So what does that mean for me? It means moving. Somehow I'm moving, whether it's a walk, a run, lifting, whatever it is. And then it's connecting. I have to connect with people. And when you work at home and you're not always with other people, that's hard. So you've got to put yourself out there and making sure that I'm doing all the things, you know, getting the sleep, making sure my circadian rhythm's on, getting my fuel. Like I've got my toolbox of what helps me to feel good and strong and energized to the best that I can each day.
I think that's so important. Speaking of your autoimmune, because I feel like we don't really talk about this enough, but how do you coach and teach when you have a flare up? What is your like go-to when you know when you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the floor, you know if it's going to flare where you are. So how do you as a coach, how do you move forward?
Well, I think first of all of us know if you've had a crappy or hard day, we all know that we put the smile on and we go anyway, which only digs the hole sometimes deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to not mask it as much. And I've learned to be transparent, throw in a little humor, but there's been either days where I say, hey, this is what's happening. And if I'm teaching a class, I usually will look for help. If I'm coaching a client and I'm one-on-one with them, I know that I can just have a conversation with them and they're so gracious and they're like, no, let me get my weights. Let me do that. You know, you just tell me what to do. They just want to see me win. And so I've learned that you have to delegate a little bit when you're having a flare up and you've really got to take responsibility for it. Because getting up in front of people when you're in mass pain really does not serve you well. And it doesn't serve them well. And it's quite frankly stupid at this point.
I think that's such a beautiful message and a good reminder to all of us that like reach for help. Because like you said, they want to see you win. We all want to see each other win. But somehow there's been this like undercurrent of this warrior, you know, this mentality of like, keep pushing. Like you said, like you get up, you slap on the smile and you do it. But in that, you just, I think, really hit home in a beautiful way that like, we're all here to help each other, circling back to that notion of community. And like, I need to ask for help and I need to delegate. And there is nothing wrong with either of those things.
Absolutely.
I love how you brought up masking, because that's something we definitely don't talk about, is the mask that we specifically as fitness professionals put on during
All of us.
health journeys, right? I think it's so important to call that out, that when you're going through something hard, you don't have to rely on the mask 100% of the time. We know that it's something that is going to help us obviously cope, but to your point, the honesty, the transparency, the humor,
Relatability.
that can also be just as helpful, if not more so helpful than masking all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. When was the first time that you really remember looking back on it and being like, I'm going to drop the mask and I'm going to just say, hey, this is shitty. Here we are.
It was my late 40s. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have the most embarrassing story. Are we
You got to go now. You cannot hold back on that one.
You can't
And
then not follow through, Heather.
Apologies to all of our young male listeners, but this is something you should know.
It's educational.
This is educational. There's something that happens in perimenopause to most women, that their periods become very irregular and they're super crime scene-y. And that's technical. And I was teaching a class and I sat on the bench to show what we're doing. And when I stood up, I was like, well, how do you deal with this one? Mm-hmm. I left some DNA on the bench and I was mortified beyond belief. This happens to our coaches and our teachers. Like, this is real life. And I remember at that point saying, you know what, this is where the shit stops. Like, now I have to get myself under control and figure out what we're going to do with this, or I'm not ever coming back into this space again to teach. And I also I used humor that day and was like, well, that's embarrassing, and cleaned some stuff up and went on with it. But it's like, that was a time where I was like, I'm not faking this stuff anymore. This sucks and I need to fix it. And, that was a conversation with my doctor. Like, how do we avoid these things from happening again? Because nobody wants to be in that. I mean, it doesn't get much more embarrassing than that.
No.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that story though. And the fact that like you've just normalized, like this is real life. And it is. And it is. And we cannot go forward and hope to make any progress in any space we're talking about if we don't admit it and say, if we don't call it out, like Jess was saying with the mask, like we will never make progress if we're over here being squeamish about like physiology and biology. Like that's what this is.
Totally.
That's what it is.
Totally. Yeah. And I know I'm not the first person that this has happened to, and I probably won't be the last. So sorry to say.
And all the women in that room were like, yep, I get it.
100%.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Like every time you make me do a jumping jack, I feel myself a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're together in this battle. So I think it just totally makes you human, makes you relatable. And that's ultimately what keeps people around, right? Is the relationships in the community.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Heather, tell us, what is something that you were like done with? You're over. It's dead to you.
I think what we've been talking about this whole time is just the perfectionism. It's so overrated. You know, I don't want to be perfect. I just want to be happy Heather. I just want to enjoy and feel good. You know, I think that for the majority of my career and the beginning of my fitness career, it was perfection. Like I'd beat myself up if I didn't teach a class perfectly, or if I flowed. Oh my gosh, like teaching Les Mills. If you've ever done the pre-choreographed classes, woo! So I would beat myself up forever. I couldn't, be bothered by that stuff anymore. And I think that there's something that comes with age. There comes wisdom, and there comes this confidence and this, like F it. I don't care about perfectionism.
Because it's not real.
No. And I wish that my 26-year-old daughter like could understand that. I wish we could just like hit fast forward and give them those things. But our younger ladies, they got to go through the trenches and learn it. But if they could learn it a little earlier, they might be better off.
All right, Erin, follow that up.
I can't, so I'm just going to use humor. And I'm going to tell you my thought coming into this episode as I was kind of thinking about what I'm over. And I'm definitely over feeling like my hormones are in a group chat without me. That's how I feel. And that's what I am done with. That's what I'm over. I don't like it. And I'm going to call it out because it seems to be happening. And joke's on me.
It'd be really nice if they could all just include you on what's going to happen.
Invite the owner of all of you. That'd be great.
It's like they have their own WhatsApp channel.
Yeah, it's so rude.
They're just planning surprise parties for you.
Oh, and that's lovely.
Yeah.
Wait till you go sit on a bench.
That's the next step in this journey, Heather.
Oh,
Jess, what are you over?
A big surprise. What am I over right now? I am over the, oh, is she doing it all mentality. This idea that we keep saying, well, how are you doing all of it? Or I don't know how you have time to do all of these things. It is supposed to be a compliment, but it almost comes across as this like heavily judgmental tone in certain situations, right? That you are doing it all, therefore you're leaving your family behind, or you're not taking care of your personal life, because obviously look at your laundry list of things we're seeing front facing or external. I feel like I'm just kind of done with this whole mentality of like judging people based on what they're putting forth or putting out there into the public eye, and thinking that, you're doing it all and it must be, like to your point, Heather, everything must be perfect. And you're actually like, trying to herd cats, or there's marbles flying everywhere.
Right.
You're trying to keep it all straight. Well, Heather, you have been an absolute joy. Thank you for joining us on
Thank you. So excited to be with you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you, Erin, as usual.
Yes, thank you.
All right, and listeners, thanks for being here with us. We will see you next time on the next episode of Fit and Flustered. Bye, everyone.
Bye.